Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a fantasy dark comedy film, Brand New Testament. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The film begins with God in human form, living in Brussels as an abusive alcoholic with a son and a 10-year-old daughter named Aya. Aya begins telling the story of her father, God himself. In the beginning, God was bored. He started working in his office, a spacious room with drawers on all sides, and created the city of Brussels. Not long after, he created animals. Soon, giraffes, chickens, and tigers filled the empty establishments and streets of Brussels. Still bored, God created man. The first man walked through Brussels and eventually found the first woman. God then created an exciting but nasty hormone game for them to play, and thus, the first man and first woman created a family from the damn game. Their family would soon grow and create civilization as we know it. Looking for more excitement, God set man against his fellow men. Wars were fought in God's name. Millennia later, Aya was born from God and his wife, the goddess. During dinner, the goddess set 4 plates on the table. The other plate is for JC or Jesus Christ, God's lost son. Aya uses her powers to move the glasses of milk around the table, but God stops her. After dinner, God enters his office. Hearing his wife vacuuming outside, he screams at her to keep quiet. In order to make life more interesting, God created natural disasters. He simulates disasters on scale models, and they happen in real time. He even creates absurd rules, like the phone ringing when one is in the bathtub, or bread always falling jam side down. One day, Aya sees the door to God's office left open. She enters and gets on the computer. There, she sees the list of natural disasters and runs out. During dinner, Aya argues with God over the disasters that he causes. God gets angry at Aya for entering his office. He chases her around the house and beats her with his belt. Afterward, Aya decides that something must be done to stop God. That night, while God is sleeping, Aya packs her bags. She talks to a figurine of her brother, and it comes to life. JC tells Aya of a secret escape tunnel in the washing machine. Aya replies that first, she needs her own apostles. She decides to get 6 apostles and get them to help her write a brand new testament revolving around not God, but the apostles themselves. She leaves the room, and JC turns back into a lifeless figurine. Aya steals the office key from God. She enters the office and grabs the cards of 6 people from the drawers. She then jumps on the computer and sends out people's exact death dates. The people receive the information on their phones. One man only has seconds to live. When the timer hits 0, he gets hit by a truck. She locks the computer and leaves the office. She returns to her room and tells JC about her plans. JC approves, and Aya enters the washing machine tunnel, leaving home for the first time. Meanwhile, people elsewhere die in accordance with their death date. A man with 62 years left to live tries killing himself by jumping from a building. However, he lands on someone else and breaks his fall, proving that the death dates are real and true. Unfortunately, the death date release also causes conflict and anguish. A nurse taking care of an old man breaks down upon finding out that the man will live longer than her. A mother tries to kill her son after discovering that he will live longer than her. The following day, Aya's mother knocks on her door, but there's no response. God wakes up to a news broadcast stating that all wars have stopped following Death Leak, the release of everyone's death dates. God panics and finds the key missing from his belt. He grabs an axe and forces the door to his office open. He finds the computer unusable. He smells Aya's scent on the computer mouse and forcibly enters her room. However, she's long gone by then. He notices the washing machine passage open and screams into it, telling Aya to come back. Aya exits the tunnel into a laundromat in Brussels. She leaves and enjoys the rain outside. She eats a burger from a dumpster, but later throws up. A homeless man named Victor tells her not to eat the bad burgers. She asks him if he can write, and he says yes. She tells Victor that he will write the brand new testament. She asks him to take her to the first apostle's address, as she will begin recruiting her 6 apostles. Victor refuses, but eventually agrees after Aya continues to follow him. Meanwhile, God gets ready to leave the house and hunt after Aya. His wife tries to stop him, but he verbally abuses her and leaves through the washing machine. Victor brings Aya to the first apostle, a beautiful woman named Aurelie. Aurelie has 11 years left to live. Lots of men are in love with Aurelie, but since she is afraid that no one will love her, she keeps to herself. Aya and Aurelie talk in a subway station, while Victor records their conversation. Aurelie reveals her life story. She lost her arm when she was 7 years old. She was dancing in a train station when the train rushed past and hit her arm, causing it to separate from her body. Ever since, Aurelie has used a silicone prosthetic. Aurelie recounts how a homeless man approached her one day in the train station and told her that life is like a skating rink. Lots of people fall down. Aya introduces herself as God's daughter. Aurelie cries, and Aya collects her tears in a vial. Aya tells Aurelie that she can hear people's music. She leans in and listens to Aurelie's music. She then tells Aurelie that she will create a nice dream for her that night. That night, Aurelie dreams of seeing her silicone hand dancing to classical music on the dinner table. Aurelie ends up holding her own hand and smiling. The next day, Aya and Victor visit Jean-Claude, the second apostle who has 12 years left. After growing up an imaginative and adventurous person, Jean-Claude ended up with no family and a miserable job. After finding out his death date, he decided to quit and stay in the park with the pigeons there forever. One morning, Jean-Claude wakes up and finds Aya and Victor on the bench next to him. Aya calls a bird, and it lands on her finger. She converses with the bird by whistling and finds out that it likes Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude asks the bird why it stays in the park when it can leave anytime. With Aya translating, the bird tells Jean-Claude that he can do the same. He can go anywhere he wants, but instead chooses to stay in the park. The bird flies away, and Jean-Claude follows it. He ends up following it through foreign lands. At the same time, God reaches the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, the washing machine in the laundromat is in use. He gets tossed and turned and drenched in soap and water. He manages to crawl out of the washing machine, but gets beaten up by the woman with the anti-hormone spray. He runs out of the laundromat and eats out of the garbage like Aya. He gets caught by some thugs to beat him up. God ends up in the hospital. He asks for painkillers, but the doctor refuses, and God fights the doctor. While walking out of the hospital, he steals bread from a child. The child's mother beats God, and the bread falls to the floor, jammed side down. Aya meets the third apostle, a sexually frustrated man named Mark, at a strip club. There, Mark tells Aya how he fell in love with a beautiful German woman at the beach when he was still young. Since then, his memories have been consumed by her. He tells her that once he learned of his death date, he took all of his life savings and spent it all on prostitutes and women. Aya leans in and listens to Mark's music. She tells him that he has a song that goes well with a nice voice. This pushes Mark to get a job as a voice actor for pornography videos. At work, Mark talks with his blonde coworker. Eventually, Mark recognizes her as the German woman with whom he fell in love that day on the beach. After work, he invites her over. They hold hands and sleep on the bed together, but without letting go of their hormones. Back at home, the goddess notices the painting of the Last Supper now has more than 12 apostles. In the painting are Aya's new apostles. The following morning, God visits the local church, which is busy feeding homeless people. God skips the line for the food, but gets told to go to the back of the line. He skips the line anyway and tries to steal food, but gets beaten up. The priest manages to save God. He then talks to God while God eats the food. While talking, God badmouths his son, Jesus. He then starts talking about the priest's life and making fun of his misfortunes. This makes the priest angry and provokes him to beat up God. The fourth apostle is an assassin named Francois. After learning of his death date, he bought a rifle and would go out to shoot civilians. He claimed that if they died, then it would not be his fault, since they must already have been scheduled to die that day. One day, while Francois looks for people to shoot, Aya and Victor sit beside him. Aya reveals that it was her fault that everyone's death dates got released. She tells him that he will be the fourth apostle. Afterward, she listens to his music and tells him that he would match well with someone that has music like Aurelie's. Aya tells Francois to shoot a young woman with chestnut hair. At that moment, Aurelie, who fits the description, passes by. Francois shoots at her, but the bullet merely hits her prosthetic arm. Aurelie is oblivious to the fact that she has been shot. Francois is surprised by this and follows her to her hormone-smelly apartment. The next day, Francois goes to Aurelie's apartment with flowers. He gives them to her in the elevator and tells her that he's in love with her. Aurelie takes the flowers and leaves Francois in the elevator. All the while, the apostles in the painting continue to increase in number. The fifth apostle is an aging woman named Martine. Martine is in a loveless marriage with her husband, who frequently leaves for business trips. While driving around, Martine gets propositioned by a young male prostitute. She ignores him and immediately drives away. Aya and Victor finally catch up to Martine. They talk, and Martine reveals that her husband will live longer than her. This causes Martine to give in and the male prostitute up on his offer. However, after the guy leaves, Martine starts feeling lonelier than ever. Aya discovers that Martine's music is circus music. They go to the circus together. There, they find a gorilla, which Martine immediately develops a profound connection with. They touch fingers and Martine cries. She later buys the gorilla from the circus and brings it home. Later that night, Martine and the gorilla get intimate. She caresses its face and kisses it passionately on the lips. That same night, Aurelie calls Francois' number, which he wrote on the bouquet. Francois picks up immediately. She tells him to come over. Francois comes over, and they sit together on the bed. Aurélie removes her prosthetic arm. Francois takes it and kisses its hand. They lie on the bed together, and Aurélie tongue massages him, but still not letting go of their hormones. Meanwhile, God returns to the laundromat, only to find that the tunnel to his house is gone. The following day, he finds Victor and Aya walking around together. He chases them to a dock. God tells Aya to come home, reboot his computer, and fix all the mess that she has created. However, Aya refuses, citing that she's happy where she is now. God rushes at Aya, but Victor steps in. He assumes a kung fu stance, and God does the same. Suddenly, Aya goes down to the water and miraculously stands on it. She calls Victor over, and he too starts walking on water. They walk away together, leaving God on the dock. God tries to walk on water, but ends up falling into the water. The sixth and last apostle is a young schoolboy named Willie, who is scheduled to die the following Sunday. Willie reveals to Aya that because he was sickly when he was younger, his mother coddled him. He was injected every day with anti-diabetes shots, which unfortunately led to him getting a pancreatic operation at age 7. When Willie found out that he only had 54 days to live, he decided to become a girl instead and wear dresses to school. Aya apologizes, but Willie thanks her for it and tells her that life's been better since learning about his death date. Aya tells Willie that it's all her father's fault. She tells him that her mother is a goddess as well, but only stays silent due to her father's abuse. Aya demonstrates her powers to Willie. She multiplies a ham sandwich, but tells Willie that it only works sometimes. She then listens to Willie's music and decides to invent a nice dream for him that night. That evening, Willie dreams of a holographic fish, singing and floating above the dining table. The following morning, after he releases the dream fish back into the ocean, Willie decides to die on a beach. The week of Willie's death becomes a busy one. On Monday, Willie sells the house furniture to get money to travel to a beach. On Tuesday, Aurélie gets Francois to stop assassinating people. On Wednesday, Martine gets caught by her husband while in bed with the gorilla. She tells her husband to leave, and when he refuses, the gorilla scares him out of the house. On Thursday, Mark and his German sweetheart play the hormone game for the first time. This whole time, Willie and Aya grow closer and closer together. In abandoned buildings, they roast marshmallows together, dance together, and even sleep together. On Saturday, Jean-Claude finally reaches the North Pole. There, he sees a beautiful woman and waves to her. The woman waves back. At the same time, God gets reported to the authorities and is captured to be deported to Uzbekistan. He threatens the plague upon his captors, but is ultimately helpless against their sheer numbers. On Sunday, Aya and her apostles, with the exception of Jean-Claude in the North Pole, go to the beach to accompany Willie during his death. On the beach are hundreds of other people who have decided to die by the ocean. Willie's dream fish jumps into the water, and they go and find a quiet spot. They are also forced to wear armbands, black for the dying and white for those that accompany them. Meanwhile, Aya's mother enjoys her alone time at home. She plays music loudly and cleans the house in peace. She enters God's office and pulls the computer plug to plug her vacuum in. This causes God's plane to experience turbulence and sends it straight into the beach, where Aya and her apostles are. Fortunately, the goddess plugs the computer back in, and the plane manages to avoid crashing. She logs into the computer and begins changing the world on a whim. First, the death dates of everyone disappears. They are no longer going to die on the predetermined date, which God has set. Willie has lived through his death day. Second, the goddess decorates the sky with vivid colors and beautiful flowers. Aya laughs, recognizing her mother's touch. Other changes also include the end of global warming, the removal of gravity, and people breathing underwater. A few months later, after publishing the brand New Testament, Victor becomes a famous, best-selling author. Martine and her loving gorilla live happily ever after. Aya and Willie share their first but smelly kiss. Francois and Aurélie are expecting a baby, but surprisingly, Francois is the one pregnant. All the while, God lands a job in Uzbekistan as a factory worker in a washing machine factory. There, he continues to search for the magic tunnel back to his humble home and office. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.